you guys. I had intro music and it was legal. I don't think I'll get in trouble. Oh my gosh. Happy Tuesday. Hello. Thank you for those of you that are joining me live. It is Get Crackin' on Christmas. So I have the link here. Well, here, there. I have the link here on the screen. I don't typically do that because it's always linked in the description of the video. And Brianne has already popped in and dropped in some links in the live chat. But I want to make sure that you guys definitely go visit my blog post this month because I do have a giveaway. I am going to be giving away the adorable stamp from Purple Onion Stamps called Baking Fun that I used for this month's card. So if you're watching this live, I should have checked, hold please. I was doing my Instagram story earlier and I didn't remember when the deadline is on the giveaway. So I'm just going to look up that real quick, 2 seconds. And then I'm going to tell you guys about Get Crackin' on Christmas. Let me just see. By July 27th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 2025. So if you're watching this on replay before July 27th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, you can still head on over to that blog post. If you're watching live and you watch most months either live or on replay, I always recommend checking out the blog post because I put some really good images of the card on there. I put my little swatch lists if I used Copic Markers. There's a full supply list. And so it's just good to check it out. Okay, so Get Crackin' on Christmas. If you are new here, maybe let me know in the chat. I see Colleen's working on the advent calendar. I love that. That's one of my most favorite projects over the years. But if you're new here, Get Crackin' on Christmas is an initiative I started several years ago with one of my good friends, Shari. And it was, I think it was like January or just after Christmas. And she and I were texting each other as we often are. And we were just kind of bummed at ourselves because we didn't send out any holiday cards that year. And we purchased a lot of new holiday stamps because all of the brands came out with such cute stuff as they often do. And we just didn't get any made. And personally, that really bummed me out. I am not the best at sending cards out throughout the year. As much as I want to, I'm not always the best, but I really, truly enjoy sending out holiday cards. So that way, at least once a year, I'm telling my friends and family, I love ya, I'm thinking of ya, and hopefully I'm brightening up their mailbox during the holiday season. And of course, I don't think any of us want to purchase craft supplies and have them just sit there. We want to give them some love. So with this chat with Shari years and years ago, it has spurred this initiative that I've been doing for several years. On the third Thursday of every month, I post a holiday card. And on that post, I will share with you guys when I will go live. I learned a long time ago, I just cannot be consistent with my live schedule. There's just always too much going on. But I always give a couple days notice at least. So here we are at the live where I'm going to teach you guys how I made my card. The other thing that I've heard time and time again from you guys is maybe you're not making holiday cards because you just run out of time. You don't have enough time. Well, one, I think that making the holiday cards throughout the year takes off the stress. Now, if you're sitting there, it's July, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have not started my holiday cards yet. I'm already behind. No. This is not meant to add more stress. You can pick up and start making your holiday cards now. There's no, oh, I haven't been doing it since January. I'm in trouble already. That is not the case. But the other thing is a lot of times people are like, I just don't have enough time. However, I would challenge you and I would encourage you, if you are joining me live or you're watching me on replay, start working on your holiday cards. This is just friends getting together. You don't need to watch every second that I show today. You can start working on your holiday cards, glance up at what I'm showing you, and then keep trucking along. You could be making some sentiment die cuts, getting those ready, maybe ink blending some backgrounds, maybe coloring in some images. All of those types of things can be done while you're watching me. So I am giving you time, since you have chosen to join me for my live, again, on live or on replay. I am giving you that reminder that you now have the time to work on your holiday cards. So I hope you guys have loved this. I know many of you guys share your Get Crackin' on Christmas cards with me. Make sure you tag me on social media so that I see those. You do not need to post on the third Thursday of the month. I just figure I'm at least consistent with one thing, right? But you guys can post whenever you want, whenever it works into your schedule. If you're working on your holiday cards throughout the year, definitely tag me. Hello. I love it. Melissa was jamming out to my new music. I'm going to warn you, I have the windows open today, and the Blue Jays have found my bird feeder and they are bullies. So you might hear them in the background. And then I had a bird hit my window earlier today. It's okay, but lots of bird chaos. However, I still wanted to have my windows open because it is beautiful here on Cape Cod, and I'm enjoying it as much as I can. Colleen is making 8 advent calendars. That is amazing, Colleen. Good thing you got cracking and started early. Let's see. Hello, Miss Donna. How are you? And Melissa is watching me on mute. Hopefully everything's okay with your husband. Hello, Julie. Thanks for popping in. She and I were FaceTiming yesterday. Julie lives on the Cape with me, and we were FaceTiming yesterday because she is far more knowledgeable about plants and gardens and all of that jazz. And we have no idea what people planted here in our home when we purchased it. So I was going around my yard showing her some things and coming up with a plan. Oh my gosh, I love it. Sandy is working on Halloween. Oh man, I love me some Halloween. I love it. All right, so let's flip to my desk. And here we are. Oh gosh, you can see my mess here. I didn't clean up very well. Oh boy. Anyways, here we are with this month's holiday card. And I don't know about you guys, but gold and craft, I think, is just so beautiful. And I absolutely love how it looks together. So I kind of went with it on that theme on this card here. So what I used on this card is, like I said, this adorable stamp from Purple Onion Designs called Baking Fun. And it's a whole new line of stamps. I'm going to try to say it. It's Chilliezgraphy by PEI or Pay. Not quite sure how to pronounce that, but adorable images, perfect for coloring. And I definitely was in the mood to color this month. So that's what I went with that. And then you'll see the Season's Greetings die, and all of this is linked below in the caption of the video and over on my blog post. But the Season's Greetings die is from Trinity Stamps. So one thing I started doing when I started working on Get Crackin' on Christmas is anything new I get that's a holiday theme, which obviously also means snowmen and snowflakes, goes into a bucket. And it does not get organized with its specific brand until it gets used. And I love that because then I just, every month I shop the bucket and I kind of decide what I want to work with. And it's really a lot of fun. So this set from Trinity actually has the die to be able to cut like I did the solid gold. It has the shadow to be able to cut, but then it also has hot foiling. And I was going to hot foil this sentiment because I had hot foiled the background, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I decided that I really liked using the gold paper instead. I just think it popped a little bit more than the hot foil, but I'm glad that I have all of those options from Trinity Stamps. And then here we go, I hot foiled. So this is Starry Skies from Lawn Fawn, which is an awesome, they have it as a background die and then also as a hot foil plate. And I think both are awesome. And I just, I don't know. I like to hot foil my background sometimes. Let's see. We got some questions. Oh, Heather says there's special stickers for birds that you put on your windows so they don't fly into the glass. I have them because we have a ton of hummingbirds. Thank you, Heather. I will definitely look into that. It hasn't happened a lot. What I think it is we have a lot of young birds in the area, and they're kind of figuring life out. Brienne says, use the Picture This app and take a photo. It will tell you what it is. I'm not sure what she's referring to, but the cardstock I'm using, if I'm using colored cardstock on my website, it is typically Lawn Fawn colored cardstock. Back in the day, I used to have a few brands of colored cardstock, but it just got to be really complicated when I was trying to like blog and link everything for you guys. And now I think Lawn Fawn has such a great variety of colors that I'm good. I'm good with just the Lawn Fawn. Let's see. Oh, and Brienne's already answering all of the questions. I love that. She's so great, that Miss Brienne. Okay, so to get started with this, we are going to start by stamping our purple onion stamp. So purple onion stamps come as red rubber only. You most certainly could purchase cling to adhere to it, but I actually like just keeping it red rubber. I do take my my Tim Holtz scissors because I think those work the best, and I just go in and I cut really close to the image, to that stamped line. That way when I am stamping, if I'm stamping directly on a project, I can see the shape of it. I don't need to see the whole thing. I at least can say, okay, the mouse is standing straight. I don't have him like this or whatever. And I don't put a lot of effort into cutting the extra rubber off. I just do like really quick, straight cuts. Don't feel like you're fussy cutting for a project. It's just really simple, like straight cuts. You can kind of see it in there as well. And the way that I like to use my purple onion stamps, I was figuring out how to do music as an intro for this live, so I'm not as prepared with everything else. What was I doing, guys? But when the new Misty came out, I treated myself to the new version of the Misty, and I dedicated my old Misty to basically stamping with purple onion. So they have a cling mount that works great, and this just lives in this Misty, and I always just use it when I am stamping purple onion. And I know not everybody can do that, like dedicate a whole stamping platform, you know, for that, but this you can peel off and put back in. And if you don't have that, what you also can do is just use some double-sided tape on the back of your stamp. Whatever works. It's super, super simple. I didn't pull out the bins that I use to organize my purple onion stamps. I share that almost every single time that I create with purple onions. So if you look back at some previous Get Crackin' on Christmas where I have used purple onion before, you'll find that I did go over that many, many times. If you're curious of a way to organize your stamps. All right, so for today, I really wanted like a warm and cozy baking vibe on my card. So I am going to actually use Crunchy Leaf Lawn Fawn ink. This is alcohol marker friendly. It's also watercolor friendly, but it's going to give a really nice softer outline instead of using black. So that's why I chose to use the good old Crunchy Leaf. And so Lawn Fawn has Jet Black, Crunchy Leaf, River Rock, which is a really, really beautiful gray. And then they also have Jellyfish, which is a no line coloring. And all of them work with alcohol-based markers and I'm getting distracted by what just happened here. Alcohol-based markers and watercoloring. Sorry, why did that not stamp? Let's try this again. Oh, I know what it is. Do over. My, let's see if I can get it. My cling mount isn't in right because I peeled it up. Hold, please. Do you always store your Tim Holtz scissors with a plastic case? I don't. Hopefully that's okay. No, you don't need to have this on here. I just think these are wicked sharp, and I'm always digging around in my drawer for stuff and don't want to cut myself, but they do not need to be stored that way. Okay, I fixed it, you guys. I fixed it. But the reason why that didn't stamp right the first time is not the purple onion stamp. I'll show you guys. It's the fact that my cling mount, see how it's going on the lip of the Misty? I don't have it in here correctly. It is not a purple onion problem. It's a Jenn Cherkis problem. So just to fix that, we'll go like this, put it down, and pick it up. There we go. All right, perfect for next time. All right, so here we go. Time to color this adorable image. And I'm just going to cut this off. You guys can obviously see I use this cardstock to make my sentiment, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I find it a little distracting. So let me know in the chat, you guys, are you working on your holiday cards right now? Have you started your holiday cards? Have you entered the giveaway? Let's hear it. Let's hear what's going on. All right. So whenever I color with alcohol-based markers, Copic markers, I always share the swatch list on my blog post. Sometimes I'll share it when I'm posting on social media, and every single time I do, people are like, thank you so much for sharing that. But I just want to let you guys know, every single time I color with Copics, you will find this swatch list over on the blog post, even if I don't choose to put it on the social media post that time. And I share these little swatches because I don't think that we all need to have the same exact colors. But I feel like having the swatches, you might be able to find similar colors in your Copic markers, or if you don't own Copic markers, you can find similar colors with whatever coloring medium you are going to use to maybe try to recreate the card if you're so inspired to do so. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit more and we will get to coloring. And I'll keep an eye on the chat. I'm excited to hear what you guys are up to today. Maybe you're just popping in during your lunch break from work. That's allowed too. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start by coloring the mouse. And I did want it to be like a nice warm grayish mouse. So I chose E43, E42, and E41. And so I'm going to start with my darkest color. All right. And he's hugging this little, I was going to say he's hugging this little cupcake. It's not so little. He's hugging this big cupcake. So I am going to add a little shadow down along that edge of the cupcake. And we're going to go on the top of his arm. And then I'm going to add a shadow on the other side of his head. And this way we're going to hopefully help his head appear to have a curve. Adding a little bit of shadow on both sides and coming to some sort of highlight will help that, that process, you know, of having it look like a curve. I didn't know there was a giveaway. Yes, there was. I chatted about it at the beginning of the video, but it's also been posted on my blog since last week. So definitely check out the blog post. It's linked in the caption of this video. So we've got some answers to all of my questions. I have a good start on Christmas with the Simon Says Stamp Holiday Collage Kit. I love that. Working on Create With Us cards, but using the rhinos as a birthday card. I love that so much. Danielle says, I've rearranged my room and now trying to organize and have everything in place that makes sense. Yeah, that's always the struggle, isn't it? And Andrea says, I'm working with you on a Christmas card with products I have on hand. I love that. I think that's so great. All right, so now the rest of his body, I'm going to just continue to shadow the right side. Still with that darkest color, the E43. We'll add a little bit of shadow between his legs, a little bit on that back leg. And I think that's it. I think that's good. I think that's a good start. All right, so now I'm going to take my second color. Now, if you only have 2 colors, that is totally fine. I typically only use 2 colors, but sometimes when I have a larger image, having a middle color just makes things a little bit easier. And so the first thing I'm going to do is work my way around everywhere that I added the dark marker. I am going to blend these two together so that we don't see a harsh line from that previous color. And it will happen fairly quickly because this isn't such a big stretch. So as it starts to blend, I then move on to my next section. I try to work in small sections because these are alcohol-based markers and alcohol just evaporates really quickly. So it'll be a lot easier if you work in a small area. It'll be a lot less work for yourself when you're coloring. All right. So now we're going to take that third color, which is the E41. And again, we're going to work our way around blending. I'm not going to focus on filling everything in just yet. My first concentration is going to be just on the blending part of things. Anywhere that I left off with that last color. And again, this is all pretty easy colors to blend, so it happens fairly quickly. Okay, so we're at this point where everything's blended. We have some white of the mouse left. And so what we're going to do is take whatever's left white, we're going to just fill it in with this last marker, but I make a point to only go over it one layer. When I was blending, I was using multiple layers, which meant that this color got darker and darker. But now I'm just doing one layer because I want it to be its true lightest version of itself. Okay. Now that I'm kind of done, I can kind of see where I got like what I call pushback. There's this little vein of pushed back color there. So what I like to do is either go back to your dark color or if you have a medium color and just flick out from the darkest towards the light. And what this is going to do is sort of make like an in-between color, and it'll soften and make kind of the your different layers blend more seamlessly. Sorry, I'm trying to think of my words. Sometimes words are hard. And sometimes you only need to do that second step, but I'm actually going to go back to my light and soften that as well. I will also just say once things evaporate, once the alcohol evaporates, things are going to look a lot better than you think they do right now. So it's kind of one of those things you're just going to have to learn on by practicing of when to kind of let things be and trust the process, that once everything has dried and settled, it will look a lot better. Okay. So now that we're done coloring the main part of him, I'm going to continue with this light color, the E41. I'm going to flick a little bit in his inner ears. And then I'm just going to trace the lines of his chef hat. I'm going to keep that chef hat white, but having a little bit of line tracing will just help give it a little bit of definition. And I think that's all we're going to do with these colors. So now what I'm going to do is color his little apron and oven mitt. And I was thinking of like, I don't know, like the 50s kitchens with that minty green. I don't know, that's the vibe I was going for. So, and I didn't want it to be too dark or too intense of a color. So I'm going to be using G00 and G000. I always start with my darkest color first. So we're going to go along the right side of his apron with that G00. And then I'm going to color in the whole tie, leaving the tips of those bow loops white. We'll add the darker, I mean the lighter marker there. And then his oven mitt, I'm going to leave it just for now, but I am going to just go around the strap of his apron. Now we'll go ahead and take that lighter color, and just like before, I'm just blending first. And then I'm going to finish filling in with one layer. His oven mitt, I'm going to do all this light color, and I'll show you how I'm going to add detail to that in just a second. And now I'm going back to my dark color. I'm just going to trace where these stitching lines are on his pocket, adding just a little bit more definition, which I often do when I'm working with really light colors, because once you've blended, you kind of lose that definition. And then on his oven mitt, I'm going to go ahead and just trace these hash marks, and that will be enough to just give it a little bit of detail. So I'm not pressing down hard. I'm barely touching the tip of my marker to the paper, and I just kind of traced over it a couple times, again, to get a darker version of that marker. Okay, super cute. All right, and so next what I'm gonna do is, let's go ahead and just color the cake of the cupcake, which is super simple. I just took E53 and colored it in. I didn't do any blending or anything. Sometimes when there's a lot going on everywhere else, you can keep some parts nice and simple. And then I decided to do the frosting. And for that, I'm looking at my notes. For that, I believe I used the R21, the R20, and R00. The cupcake liner is going to be pretty dark, so I wanted to keep this, again, nice and soft. So we'll start with the darkest color, which is that R21. And I'm going to come out from this left side. And I'm going to come around these berries and around the little curve of the frosting, just like that. Okay. And then don't hesitate to utilize the artist's artwork. And I'm going to kind of add some shadow where these crevices are from the frosting. So definitely utilizing what the artist gives us will make it easier to know where to shadow. And then I'm just going to add a little bit on the left side of these ooey gooey yummy drips. So I'm going to take my next color, which is the R20, and I'm going to just start by blending those edges. This is also a really nice, easy blend. It happens pretty quickly, but you'll see I'm only concentrating on where I added the dark color. I'm not coloring everywhere. Okay. Once I've blended, I'll just extend that color a little bit since I've got a decent amount of space to work in. And then I'm going to use this last color. This is really, really a light color, the R00. So once I'm done, if I feel like I need to add some more medium color, I can always go back in and do so. Oh, there's that blue jay. Such a bully. All right, super cute. I love it. So next, let's go ahead and color the berries. Thank you so much, Margaret. It was so quiet all of a sudden. Everybody was chatty in the beginning, and then I see there's lots of eyeballs on, but all of a sudden the chatter ended. So I was hoping I wasn't putting you guys to sleep. I hope you're busy working on something or just enjoying looking at it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I said, was the berries. And so for that, I am actually using, let's see, I think I used 3 colors, I'm going to guess. We also know, you know, I do pinky reds, not straight reds. So my berries are going to be pinky reds. And then I'm going to start by coloring with R35. So I want to use the R35 to really deepen the shadow and give it some good dimension and give it that hint of red. And so what I'm doing is everywhere that the berries are overlapping and touching each other is where we're going to add this R35. But you can see I only added a very, very, very little bit. Okay. And so now I'm going to take the RV14 and I'm going to blend the edge everywhere where I put that R35, the darker color. And then I'll finish it off with the RV13. So there'll be a nice little highlight on these berries. Because again, in Jenn's world, there is pinky reds, no real reds. Super cute, super cute. Hello, Heather. Sorry that you missed the notification. Marcy, what do you think of the Tim Holtz die cuts for his older stamp sets? Are you going to make some cards for examples of sets you have previously used? I'm on the fence about buying any. Well, Marcy, hopefully you're subscribed to my email newsletter and or my blog posts, but I've already been sharing a ton of inspiration using die sets that Simon Says Stamp is making for the Tim Holtz stamp sets. So if you go to my website and just go to the blog page and scroll down, over the past, especially the past month or so. There's several blog posts I've already shared. I personally, I like to fussy cut. You're going to see that in a little bit during this live. However, having dies is always a bonus to me because I don't want to fussy cut every day, and it just opens up a whole nother option for you. So I say get them, especially for maybe your most favorite stamp sets. And I just love it. All right, Melissa's watching and making lunch at the same time. Love that. And Margaret's not sleeping at all. She's just absorbed. Okay, good. Just checking. Heather says, I love the color palette on this card. So soft. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jill, for tuning in from Minnesota. All right, so now what we're going to do is the cupcake lining. And so what I did for that is I wanted to add a little bit of red just to kind of keep in with that little holiday vibe. So I'm going to take my R35 and I'm doing very, very thin lines along the cupcake liner lines. But I want it to be very, very thin because I am going to be adding that RV14 over it, which is going to just thicken the shadow. So when I want really, really thin lines, I am barely touching my marker to the paper, and then that's the way that I can really control the line width. If you're pressing hard, you're going to get thicker lines. Let's see. Heather says it's Jen's world and reds don't live in it. That's exactly right, Heather. No worries, Marcy. It's all good. Definitely subscribe to my email newsletter because I share a lot of inspiration with a lot of different brands. And I would just absolutely love for you to be able to see that and be inspired by that. And Brienne is being amazing. She is sharing some links to some of my most recent blog posts in the chat. So thank you, Brienne. All right, so continuing on these lines that are at the bottom, we're just adding a little bit of R35. And let's see, it looks like I did a little bit over here and a little bit there. All right, and because I knew I was going to really have my shadow be this RV14, that's why I wanted it to be nice and thin. All right, so I'm going to take this RV14 and I'm going to go back over this, meaning I am swiping over the line a couple times just to get a little bit more alcohol marker down so the two will blend together. Some of you might be like, well, why didn't you just do RV14? Well, if I did just RV14, it would just be pink. It wouldn't be pinky red. And I really, because it is a holiday card, I do want a little touch of red in there. So that's why I added that undertone of the red marker. So now that I just did the RV14, I'm going to take RV13. And for this, I am going over the shadow again, but we do want to still keep some white space because I'm going to use a lighter pink to kind of be my highlight on this cupcake liner. So in some parts I can already tell it is hard to leave white space, but where possible, I'm going to try my best to leave some white space. Again, this takes practice to have a light hand and not kind of be too thick with your line marks, okay? So now what I'm going to do with what's left is I've got this RV21, and this is just going to give me a nice pop of a highlight anywhere that is left white. I probably could have just continued with the RV13, but I wanted it to be a little bit more dramatic than that, so that's why I went with this RV21. But how cute is that, right? All right, so now we're going to do our bow and our holly leaves. And these are some different greens for me. Again, I was trying to keep with my baking warm and cozy vibes. And so I'm using the YG63, YG93, and YG67. And let's go ahead and do the holly leaves first. For that, I took the YG67. And I'm just following the detail of the stamp. Again, the stamp artist did all the hard work for us. We don't have to feel like we've got to figure it all out on our own. Okay. And then I'm going to take the YG63 and I'm going to go over that. Couple swipes on each line so that it'll blend together. It is going to make those lines thicker. So cute. And then I'm going to finish with this YG63 and finish just filling in the holly and trying my best to just have it be one layer of color. There we go. And there we go. Now I am going to actually, there's a little gap in the holly leaves here. I'm coloring that green because you'll see why later. We're going to be fussy cutting this out. So I don't want to be cutting that little gap out. So we can be the boss of our image. But I am going to add just a little bit more of this darker green, the YG67. And I'm going to go over this with that YG63 one more time, just to kind of, don't be afraid. You can definitely build up your layers of your alcohol-based markers. The thing is once you have your light spot though, with just one layer of marker, you just want to make sure you're not going over that a bunch of times because it'll just get darker and darker and darker. Okay. Hello, Amy. Thanks for popping in. I appreciate it. Thank you, Anne. And hello, Elizabeth. Thanks for popping in during lunch. All right. So now with this bow, I kind of wanted the greens to like match, but I wanted them to look a little bit different. So what I did, instead of using the 63, I used the 93 as the light color. So the first thing I'm going to do is start by adding some shadow coming down the little tail ends of the bow. I colored the whole inside of the loops. And then for the band that's around the cupcake, I'm doing a thin line at the top and bottom with this dark green. For the knot, I'm going to just shadow it on the right. And then I'm going to trace this little indentation of those loops. Okay, so that's our beginning stage. And now I'll take this YG93 and I'm first just going around and blending the edges. And this blend is a little, it's a little awkward, but I like it how it turns out. It's like not the typical two markers you'd probably choose to blend, but I liked the end result. So sometimes just sticking with it. And if you're not sure about what colors you want to do, I do little swatches over here on my side of my paper when I'm coloring to figure out if I think it's going to work, right? So I just kind of lay some dark and then I take the light and I just start blending to see if it's going to look good. And if I don't like it, then I'll try something different. But I do this type of thing a lot. is how I kind of come up with different color schemes. Now, mind you, I know my favorite blends and I know my favorite markers that work together, and I use those a lot. But when I want to switch things up, which is another reason why I love these Get Crackin' on Christmases, because it gives me the time to experiment and play. Then, you know, I do this type of thing, just so you guys know. Now, I also know I've been hinting a long time, I've been hinting at offering an online class with Purple Onion stamps. And I've been chatting with Michelle, the owner of Purple Onion, and we've been chatting. It's really on me. So hopefully, you know, I'm crossing my fingers this fall I'll have an offering for you guys, which I'm super, super excited about. All right. Last but not least, we got some rosy cheeks, rosy noses, rosy inner ears, rosy tails. We got to rosy all the things. And so for that, I decided to use R11. I just thought this pink worked well with the color scheme. So I'm going to go ahead and color in his little nose. And then I'm going to use some on his inner ear, just flicking it above on top of where we added that E41. I'm going to color in his tail. Before I do his cheeks, I actually just noticed, I think I did a darker color on his nose, which you can see here, which I just think looks so cute to have a little bit of a darker color. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my R21 and color his nose. Oh yeah, that's cute. I think because it's such a teeny tiny little nose. I think that's why I decided to go a bit darker. All right, so his cheeks, we've already colored him brown, but if we take this lighter marker, alcohol-based marker, we can just gently dab repetitively to get the rosy cheek that we want. And I'm kind of doing this at an angle like this so that I'm getting more of an oval shape and not necessarily a circular shape. One, because we have the space, and two, just because I think that's a really cute shape. And then I'm going to flip this guy upside down, and I'm going to do a little bit of dabbing over here next to the cupcake to get a little bit of rosiness happening over here as well. Now, I'm not pressing hard because we never want to damage the tips of our markers, but if you just keep repeating the tapping gently, that lighter color is going to overpower the darker color. And that's how you can get those super cute little rosy cheeks. All right. All right. So now before we start to cut this image out, I'm going to just do a little bit with my white gel pen. And I am using the Jelly Roll 08 Sakura Jelly Roll, and I just kind of warm it up on the tip of my finger. And I'm going to do 3 little cheek freckles because there's room, and I just think that's adorable when you can kind of fit 3. Over here, I can't really fit 3, so I'm going to do 2. We'll pretend that third one is hiding behind that really yummy cupcake. And then on the berries, I'm going to add a little trio of dots on each berry. Just like that. And then I just took my white gel pen, and everywhere that I kind of did the shadow, I'm just gently dragging the white gel pen just to kind of add a little bit more something something. I am not gonna ever pretend to be the one to look to for how to be a pro with your white gel pen, but I like to use little bits of it here and there, but I don't, you know, use it a ton. Hello, Kathy. Thanks for popping in. I love it. Marcy, Amy, and Elizabeth are excited excited, and some of you are patient because I know some of you have heard me say that for a while about the purple onion class. All right, so purple onion does not have coordinating dies for their images. I will let you guys know that does not mean the whole class is going to be filled with fussy cutting. There's lots of creative ways to use purple onion stamps without having to fussy cut. I'm not promising there won't be any fussy cutting, but just because you might not like fussy cutting doesn't mean you don't get to use purple onion. However, today we are going to fussy cut, and I know that fussy cutting stresses some people out. I think because I'm from the days of not having any coordinating dies, I'm just used to fussy cutting, and I don't want to fussy cut all the time for all my cards, but I actually find it relaxing to do when I'm in the mood to do it, right? So the first thing that I do when I am going to fussy cut out an image like this is I want to work at getting out the little details with an X-Acto knife. And I know that that alone is going to freak some of you out, but stick with me, okay? Because it's not as scary as it seems. I have a small cutting mat that I love because it's like the perfect size. And when I went to college for graphic design, we had to do all of these fundamental design classes and art classes, and so much of it dealt with X-Acto knives that I think I still have PTSD from those days, because it's like, it's scary, right? You don't really have control over it. You're trying to be precise, and one small move could be chaos. I don't know if Fiskars had the fingertip X-Acto knife back when I was in college. It was a long time ago, but I wish I knew about this tool, because this makes working with an X-Acto knife so much less scary. So much less scary. You put your finger through it like this, and you immediately have so much more control instead of having a long pen type X-Acto. Like, I know this is a gel pen, but let's pretend it was an X-Acto, right? Brienne says, look at you using a gel pen 2 lives in a row. I'm going to start calling you Gel Pen Jen. Marcy says too much white gel pen is a distraction. Yeah, I tend to keep things pretty simple. So, all right. The other thing I want to mention, just because when I've used these in person in classes, if for some reason your blade is not shooting right off your fingertip like this, it's turned the wrong way, you want to make sure you fix that, right? This unscrews so that you can change the blade, but you want it's supposed to be pointing right out of your finger, okay? Brienne says, I'm thankful for the pioneers who walked, aka fussy cut, so we could run, aka die cut. I love it. You're such a baby, Brienne. And I mean baby in young in age, not being a baby. Marcy says, I'm used to fussy cutting too, but I'm pretty good at it. Small scissors are key. Yes, I'll get to that in a minute, Marcy, for sure. Elizabeth says, it stresses me out, but it's a goal for 2025 to get to the point where it doesn't stress me out anymore. I love that, Elizabeth. All I will say is just remember, it's just paper. Maybe try fussy cutting out before you spent all the time coloring, right? And the more you do it, the easier it will get. But yeah. And Marcy agrees. She loves this X-Acto knife as well. So what I was mentioning is I'm not X-Acto knifing out this whole image. I'm going to utilize my scissors because I'm much more comfortable with those. But what I'm going to use this X-Acto knife for are all of the dainty little areas that are going to be harder to get in with my scissors. And I want to do that first because while my image is still part of this piece of paper, it's much more sturdy. If I fussy cut it out first and then try to go in with my X-Acto knife, it's going to be a more delicate image and you have a more chance of ripping. So that's why I like to do the X-Acto knife stuff first. And the other thing that I keep in mind when I am working with my X-Acto knife is for the most part, I also am just doing straight cuts. Also, don't be afraid to turn your paper. And in this case, I'm turning my paper and my cutting mat at the same time. But like I just did the zigzag around the bottom of those ribbon ties, right? And then I'm just working my way around. Okay. You can always look at the back and make sure things are cutting out. But just take it in small chunks. Okay. It doesn't need to be done. Don't get overwhelmed by all that needs to be done. Just work on it in small chunks. And you'll see I'm turning and moving my cutting mat around. Okay. Right. So I did around the bow. I'm going to kind of do this little nook next to his body. We'll get up into here where it'll be easier to get in with scissors. But now I'm going to go around his tail. Now I chose not to leave any white space. Now sometimes when I fussy cut, I will leave some white space and sometimes I don't. But today I decided not to leave white space, or when I designed this card. So that's kind of where I'm going with it. So I am really going right along that stamped line. Going right around this little mouse tail. But all I would say is if you find that you're fighting it, like it's a struggle, think about how you can either go at it in a different angle. So you'll see I just went on the outside of the mouse's tail like this instead of coming down around. Look at it that way. Look at it from different points of view. And also just remember you can turn your paper. You shouldn't have to fight it too much, right? Good. Now we got a little cute tail cut out. Okay. I'm going to cut this little bit in between his little hat. This is why I colored the in-between on those holly leaves, because I didn't want to X-Acto knife. And you could do that as well. I could pretend his ears back here and color that all brown if I didn't want to cut this out. That is allowed. These are your cards. Nobody's going to judge you. And if they do judge you, they definitely get off the Christmas card list. They do not deserve a Christmas card from you, right? So now we have these holly leaves up here, which I think will just be easier with the X-Acto knife. So I'm going to go around the curve of the frosting. And then we have each of these little points of the holly leaves, which again, don't get overwhelmed by how many of them there are. Just start doing them. And what I'm going to do is take my X-Acto knife and go up one side of all of them. Just like that. Okay, so you can see all those little slivers just on one side. And now I'm going to go ahead and go on the other side just to get that point. You can tell I'm really concentrating because I am not multitasking and talking as much, but so see how the leaves are popping out? But you just got to kind of look at it in bite-sized pieces. So we're going to go down this other side of this holly leaf. And again, I'm slicing one side of those points first. And you can be dramatic. Drag that slice. It'll just make things connect easier. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. Something satisfying. Once this is all out, it's like, oh, I did that. Now, are you going to make 100 holiday cards like this? Probably not. But I didn't really talk about this at the beginning, but I don't personally love to make all of the same holiday cards. I get bored really easy. That's why I don't like to kit for my classes. I don't like the monotony of it. So I enjoy making holiday cards all throughout the year so that I can take the time to play with different techniques and try different supplies and such. So this, if you like to mass produce your cards, that is totally okay. Many, many people do. This probably wouldn't be the design to be doing, or you would just stamp this onto a background and not have to cut it out. Let's see. Question. Do you find it's easier to not leave any white space or to leave white space? I feel like trying to leave an even amount of in an image is hard. I agree, Elizabeth. I think I typically, when I'm fussy cutting something really intricate, I will not leave white space because I do agree. I think it's hard to keep it even. If it was something a little bit simpler where maybe I'm not having to use the X-Acto knife at all, then I might be more apt to leave a little white space because I might be able to keep it more even. Hello, Amrita. All right, let's see where I left off here. But that's a good question. Now, I'll tell you another thing. Well, I'll tell you after. It'll make more sense. I won't forget, I promise. All right, so now I got around the holly. I'm just going to do this little nook around the frosting. And then I think the rest I can do with my scissors. And then we'll figure out if I missed, if anything's still connected. I feel like something down here is still connected. Okay, we'll see. All right, so let me grab my scissors. So the other trick to fussy cutting is finding a pair of scissors that work really, really well for you. And pretty much since college, I have been using what I call squeezy scissors. So there's no loops for your fingers, and they're squeezy scissors. These are great for left-handed or right-handed. They're awesome if you have any hand issues, like maybe your hands cramp up or you have arthritis. I have literally been using these since I was like 19 years old. And I was so excited when Tim came out with them. And I am happy to report I love them just as much as my older pair. Let me just zoom out just a little bit. So as I start to turn the paper, I'll still be on screen. There we go. All right, so the trick is whether you're using squeezy scissors or scissors with loops in them, the trick is you're turning the paper and you're barely doing anything with your scissors. You're barely doing anything with your scissors. So I'm just going to go in and you'll see with my left hand, I'm turning my paper. And what I'm doing with my right hand that are holding my scissors is I'm just gently squeezing down. But all the work really is your left hand. And if you're left-handed, it would be your right hand, I imagine. But I've never been left-handed. Okay. And you can see I'm really just getting my scissors in there and then turning with my left hand. Again, something else takes a little practice, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get. Okay, so now we'll go down here where I left off on the cupcake. Everything else seemed to pop out well. There's a couple straggles I'll clean up in a minute. And again, I'm just making my way around the image. Yeah, lots of people are loving the squeezy scissors. While I am fussy cutting, for those of you that are here live or watching the replay close to the live, and might not be on my email list, I sent out an email newsletter this morning that had a lot of fun things going on. I have an overstock sale on some of my specific crafty gear. So my t-shirts that say get inky, make stuff, glitter things, or make stuff. Oh gosh, now I'm forgetting what the make stuff one says. I always call them just make stuff and get inky. I'm forgetting what it says. But I have those for sale, t-shirts, in all different sizes, all different colors. And then my classic fit sweatshirts, the ivory ones, I have a couple designs as well on sale. I took, I think, like $8 off. Oh, and then the other saying that's available is sorry, can't, crafting, bye. And just so you know, if you don't know, the way that that's said is sorry, can't, crafting, bye. So this isn't bad. We've got a little bit of work to do, but this isn't bad. Heather says, question, how much do you worry about bending the paper while you're fussy cutting? I don't worry. If I feel like I'm starting to bend the paper, let's say, you know, if I'm in here and I'm starting to like really mangle the paper like this to do something, I'm going to take my scissors out, adjust the way that I'm holding, go back in with my scissors and go around. Hopefully that makes sense, Heather. But if you are bending, I would readjust how you're holding things, and usually that will fix things. All right, we've got some dangles over here. So I'm actually going to get them with my X-Acto knife. I think that will be best. And the thing that I typically do when I fussy cut like this is I then edge my image with a black marker. And then that will take away the white core of the cardstock showing up. However, the marker that I like to use to do that is the Memento marker. And the reason why I like to use the brush tip of this marker to go around the edging is because it is friendly to alcohol-based markers. Memento is a friendly ink to alcohol-based markers. It doesn't tend to like seep up in to your image. However, there isn't a brown one that I can find. It looks like they've kind of really limited their colors over the years. So what I'm going to try to do, actually what I ended up doing is I just left it alone. And it ends up being okay. It doesn't bother me as much on this card. Yeah, and Brienne says you have to say bye when you legally agree to do that when you buy the shirt. I love it. And so Brienne's linking those sale items in the chat. So those are only on sale until I believe I said July 27th. Beth says, question, do you ever feel like you have to go back and touch up some of the edges after cutting? That's my problem when I fussy cut. So I think I just answered that, Beth. I do feel like I have to do that sometimes, but I typically only do it when I stamp with black ink. The little bit of white that's showing up on the edge of the holly there, I'm getting my camera, hopefully, there we go. That's not bothering me. I think because this color scheme is really nice and soft. And I think once it's on the card, I'm not going to notice it as much. Yeah, Beth just said asked and answered. All right, great. All right. So now that we got that cut out, hopefully, I feel like the more I show you guys fussy cutting, maybe the less scary it will be. Maybe. So what I did is I already hot foiled my background panel, and I just used the matte gold Spellbinders hot foil. And I use the Glimmer hot foil system, which is by Spellbinders, and I use it in my Spellbinders die cut machine, the platinum, but the Glimmer hot foil does work in several different types of die cut machines. Sorry, I just got distracted by the birds outside. I've got a woodpecker and a blue jay. Okay, so what I did is I ended up adding some foam tape to the back of my hot foiled panel, and I cut it down. So this piece of craft is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, just a regular A2 panel. And what I did is I cut this down to be 4 by 5 1/4. So it's craft on craft, but because we're going to pop it up, I just think it looks really nice and like classic. So yeah. Thank you, Catherine, for posting your order. I appreciate it. And so the other thing that I wanted to mention that was in the email newsletter this morning, and hopefully you guys will definitely subscribe so you don't miss these things. But I host a couple in-person events here on Cape Cod, and one of them is Crop on the Cape. And attendees get pretty awesome swag bags from the platinum sponsors for that event. And it's inevitable that we have extras at the end of the events. So last week when Josie was here, she organized those extra swag bags. And then when we didn't have like the full swag bags, she made some grab bags. Long story short, all of the items are donated. So I am not trying to make money off of them. But what I'm doing is the price of the swag bags and the grab bags is all of that money is going to my local MSPCA. And many of you guys know I do cards for charity all throughout the year. And all the money for Cards for Charity, where I sell my handmade cards, goes to the MSPCA. The local MSPCA is where I adopted Mr. Harley, Gus, and Jack. So I love this way of just raising money and just be able to give it back to them. So there's swag bags and 2 different prices of grab bags available. If you have participated in Crop on the Cape, been here at the event, just make sure you read which years the product is from, because you don't want to, I mean, maybe you do want doubles, but I don't want you to get stuck with doubles if you attended the event. Hello, Jennifer Engel. Thanks for popping in. Thank you so much, Karina. I know, I love the soft colors. It's very different for me. Hello, Avra. We got lots of people popping in. You missed the crazy fussy cutting part. But Brienne just linked in the chat. All the grab bags and swag bags are over on my sale category on my website. And again, they are grab bags. So, you know, there might be an item you don't love or what have you, but just know all of the money is going to my local MSPCA so they can help out all of the animals. If Chris and I could adopt them all, we probably would. He's actually more of a softie than I am. But we're good. We are good. Gus and Jack are living their best lives, and they're a good combination. Let's see. Kylie asked, I'm thinking, where did I get this paper? This was hot foiled with Lawn Fawn's Starry Night hot foil plate, and I used the matte gold foil from Spellbinders. Thank you, Annie. Yeah, I love the gold on craft. I think it's so pretty. So I'm going to add this little guy in the center here. He's going to be the star of the show. And then, like I said, I used Trinity Stamps. They have a Season's Greetings sentiment die. It also comes with the hot foil. So I chose to cut this out of the Lawn Fawn Metallic Gold Cardstock just because I felt I'd already hot foiled. It needed to pop a bit more. However, the hot foil option is there. And then they also give the shadow for the sentiment. And I already pre-glued these because I figured you didn't need to watch me do that. But I just wanted to let you know what I did for the shadow back is I just used that E41 marker. And I just colored the whole background of this paper, and that's how I got that really warm color for the background, so it's not white. I could have used like a cream, like vanilla malt cardstock from Lawn Fawn. I could have used, I love their speckled egg cardstock, but I kind of had my markers out and I was like, oh, E41 would be the perfect color, and so I just went with that, you know, because why not, right? Yeah, Jennifer Engel says, helping all of the animals. I agree. I agree. I agree. Hello, Susan. Lots of people popping on. Hello, Carrie from Trinity Stamps. Thanks for popping in. Were your ears burning? Just talking about this lovely sentiment die from Trinity. Your ears must have been burning. All right. So I am just adding some foam strips. I'm popping up all of the things in true Jenn fashion. And then we're going to add the finishing touches, which I always think really make a card, in my opinion. So we'll wrap up this card here. So I skipped Get Crackin' on Christmas last month. I'm confessing I did not do a June one. There was an in-person trade show where I actually got to see Tanisa, the owner of Trinity Stamps. It was so nice to see her. But there was just a lot going on leading up to that trade show, and I just couldn't get it together. So that's a good example how Get Crackin' on Christmas is not meant to stress you out. It's just supposed to gently encourage you to get your holiday cards done. But it's okay if you've got to let it go sometimes. And I definitely had to let it go last month. But hopefully I'll be full steam ahead for the rest of the year. I already have a good stack of holiday cards created. I know it. I think at the beginning Brienne had tagged, there's a playlist here on my YouTube channel. So maybe, you know, you're just in the mood someday to be working on your holiday cards in your crafty space. You could just throw on the playlist and maybe that will get your creative juices going. Remember, you don't have to have all the same things I'm using, but just watching might give you some ideas with the supplies that you have. But yeah, it's always the third Thursday of the month is when I post my card. And then in that post is when I announce that when I'll go live, because the live always changes. Let's see. Heather says, I love that watching your lives gives me a chance to learn about a new paper crafting brands. I love that, Heather. I've only been paper crafting for a year and a half. Well, welcome. Kylie says, hey Jen, have you thought about doing hot foiling in one of your online classes? I actually have, Kylie, and I've added that into some of my questionnaires. But when I asked how many people had a hot foiling device, not many had. So I chose not to at the time. But that might be something I'll re-look into because it was a little bit ago when I had asked that. Carrie says from Trinity, just happened to pop on YouTube and saw the card you were making and had to stick around. It's so cute. Well, thank you so much, Carrie. All right, so we've got everything in place. And so now we're going to do some of our finishing touches. It wouldn't be a holiday card without a little bit of sparkle. So I'm actually going to be using the Distress Rock Candy because I wanted to add a little yumminess to our frosting. And I really think it just looks so great. And so when I'm using rock candy, I like to use the Distress Collage Medium. So what I decided to do to keep it simple is I am just going to add Distress Collage Medium to the shadow of my frosting. My Distress Collage Medium is almost gone. I've got to go downstairs and shop my own online store to get some more, but I think I'll have enough to finish this card. So I'm just adding some Distress Collage Medium to where I added the shadow of my coloring. It's going to come out white, but it will dry clear. So don't panic that all your hard work of coloring is going to waste. I'll show you my finished sample where it's all dry in just a minute. But basically everywhere that I added that shadow when we were coloring is where I added the Collage Medium. And then I'm going to go ahead and just take some rock candy. I store it in one of my glitter storage containers. All of my most used powdery things are in these glitter storage containers. So rock candy, Prismaglitter, chunky glitter, white embossing, gold embossing. And you can see it there. Again, it looks white, but when it dries and it's clear, look how yummy that looks. I just want that. I have not eaten lunch yet, so I really do want this cupcake. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of Glossy Accents to the berries. And I absolutely love to use a baby Glossy Accents bottle. It doesn't bubble as much. And I say that, now watch, this is going to bubble, but it doesn't bubble as much. And I just think it doesn't clog as much as the big bottle. I just love the baby bottle. And it lasts a very, very, very long time. I keep it right in my glue tube holders. But you can see there it is. It's going to take time to dry. It's probably going to take, with our humidity going on right now on Cape Cod, it's probably going to take a good half hour. But as I shine it in the light, you can see the sparkle of the rock candy and the shine of the Glossy Accents on those berries, which I absolutely love. So yeah. Oh yeah. And thank you so much, Colleen, for answering. But Amarita asked, how come brands, do you know why some brands continue to make hot foil plates since press plates work for both techniques? And Colleen says that Trinity Stamps is only making press plates now for that very reason, so you can do both. I think what's happening, Amarita, is there's probably a little bit of a shift as well. If a company has a stock of hot plates, they've got to sell out of those, right, before they change how they do it. And also it would depend on which manufacturer a company is using. press plates are only manufactured by Spellbinders, and Spellbinders does that for certain brands. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. All right, let's see. Marcy says, I'm looking forward to Adventures in Card Making on Thursday. Yay. Yeah, so I will be live on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Lawn Fawn's YouTube channel with my East Coast Fawny bestie, Miss Shari, and we will be creating with what everybody voted for on the Lawn Fawn Instagram stories yesterday, so I can't wait. Florna says, it's beautiful. I've been watching since the start and shared this out. Oh, thank you so much. That is so sweet of you. I really appreciate it. Awesome. Well, yeah, you guys, I hope that this has inspired you to get cracking on Christmas. Basically, it's just a fun, no stress initiative to get us working on our holiday cards a little bit sooner. I just feel those fall months with all the different holidays, all the different school, if you have kids, all those things going on, it just goes really quick. It's like, you know, September and then all of a sudden December. So I just like to do a little bit throughout the year so it's a little less stressful, and I feel like I can enjoy the process more and it won't feel so much like I have to do this, you know. So anyways, if you are watching this live or close to the live on replay, definitely head on over to my blog post that I have linked on the screen here. I'm giving away a brand new adorable stamp from Purple Onion Designs. And so I'll be choosing a winner. So make sure you leave a comment over on that blog post. But thank you so much for joining me. Trinity Stamps, Colleen, thanks for popping in. That was a fun surprise. And I hope you guys had fun. I hope you're inspired. And if you want some more live crafting, definitely join Shari and I on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on the Lawn Fawn YouTube channel. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Have a fabulous day. Bye, guys.